the first deal came up. So I got my first like real electrical engineering job. Went to Austria for 4 months to train for them. And in the time, I'm still listening to Bigger Pocket stuff. And when I got back, I said, okay, like I sold the stack route territory.
Yeah.
Made a little money on that, and then we took a second mortgage on the house, or took a HELOC, or no, home equity loan on the house. So second mortgage.
So that time in Austria was kind of just like spending the time, just getting your mindset, just kind of learning.
That's where I started reading books. Like I read my first real estate book, and I wasn't a reader in high school like most people. I hated reading it. Yeah. I mean, I probably finished I probably didn't even finish a Dr. Seuss book. Like all the way through, like you can ask Allie, I was cliff noting. Like, sorry to all my teachers now, but I was and they probably know it, but I was cliff noting everything.
Oh, who wasn't cheating on them books? Nobody was reading those books. Let's be honest.
We would go in the summer, like 3 days before school, with like Meredith Wynn at her house, and we'd be like, "All right, everybody, like y'all all read the books," and I'm like, "What'd y'all learn?" And so I got all that stuff from I just kind of like. You know, I was good in school, but like I didn't read.
Right. It'd always be the thing. Like for me personally, I remember I'd always just like go up to like the smart girls in class, or be like, "Hey, what happened like last night?"
So that was my wife at the time. Girlfriend, Allie at the time was like, her and Meredith were always the two that read everything, and I was like, "What you got for me?" Yeah, what you got for me? So, anyways, when I was in Austria, I read my first real estate book, and I realized like, holy shit. Like they grabbed me.
Yeah. So
like Rich Dad Poor Dad, like everybody else.
Right.
And then I read all the way to like the 4-hour work week, which I don't even at the time I was like, how is this even possible? And I don't really even agree with the 4-hour work week. Right. Like that's cool if you want to retire and you want stuff to be automated, like that's cool. But I still like once you quit working, you start dying.
Yeah.
You don't have a purpose.
Exactly. And I think also like you were talking about reading the books and stuff like that. As far as reading the books, I find to just pull what I feel like would work for me, and I feel like would get me towards my goals. Because obviously, you're not going to agree with everything a book says or everything everybody says. If you do, I mean, you're just kind of a follower. You know, you're just kind of just getting pushed through life. But yeah, you just take the important parts out and just apply them to your life. But yeah, what was like a big, like I know you said Rich Dad Poor Dad, but what was like a big thing for you as far as books? What was your favorite?
Well, I like to try to pull like 1 or 2 nuggets out of every book, right? And I just finished the Tribal Millionaires book.
Okay.
And that was pretty incredible.
I haven't read that one. That's
about abundance.
Okay.
So like, it's a character in there. His dad died, didn't know him, and he like helped build the rituals for like this abundance mindset and this group and all stuff. And he was in a slump on the business. I mean, so like, if you can pull like, even I read Art of the Deal, one of Trump's books.
Yeah.
I read Art of the Deal, and the only thing I got out of that book, and that was a tough read. Like you start that book,
just hard vocabulary.
No, it's just hard to follow. It's just boring.
As hell. Oh, okay.
I mean, for me it was, and so like when you start it, like the first chapter or something is about his schedule. 6 a.m. I wake up. 7 o'clock I eat breakfast. 8:30 I'm on my first call. Then I drive to the airport. I'm like, oh my god. So out of that book, like I pulled, if you're offering, and this is where a lot of people people we've worked with in the past, you've seen it, family's seen it, friends have seen it. If you don't have a bad feeling about your offer, you're offering too much. Okay. If you don't second guess your offer, you're offering too much. And I was like, okay. And so then you start like getting deals accepted on the first offer, and you're like, damn, I should have offered lower. Like that's the first thought. I mean, even when we bought a car, I was like, 31 grand. And he was like, done. And I was like, oh, I could have got it for 29. Yeah. Something like that.
Right. Well, do you ever, I find like when I haven't been able to start investing yet. I want to get into it. That's why I'm glad to be able to talk to you about it. But as far as when I go and like buy stuff like a car and stuff like that, I always find, would I be happier at the fact of offering lower and not get it, or would I be happier with offering a little more and being able to get it? I just feel like you got to weigh it out also. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, the numbers have to work.
Right.
Right. Like and I've heard a lot of stuff, like part of me says, okay, let's say the numbers work at 100 grand. Like you need to buy the house for 100 grand.
Yeah.
If you go in and offer 98, Like, why would you offer 98 when it works at 100? You're talking about $2,000 and you're going to flip it and make $55,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Who cares?
Right.
But if they're at 130 and you're like, I need this at 100.
Yeah.
And you know, like, let's say you don't know the seller situation, it's just on market. You're going to have to come in with like the best offer. So you offer like the top of your numbers working with your contingency in.
Right.
So like anything can happen. You know, like we started a house and we were like, oh yeah, 2 floor joists are bad. We pulled like 7 or 8 of them out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I didn't account for the lumber and the extra 3 days and the extra decking and all that stuff. Like, I didn't account for that. So that's where your contingency comes in.
Right.
And so, like, if you say, let's say a house is listed for $130,000 and you said, okay, I have to have this for $100,000. Just offer 100.
Yeah.
Like, or you could come in and some people do this where they'll offer 110, they'll get it. And this is what we kind of started doing because it works very well, even though it really puts the seller in a bad position.
Yeah.
You offer the 110 or the 115, and then you go through due diligence. If you have a due diligence, like COVID, we didn't have any due diligence.
Right.
Like we had like 1 day maybe.
Yeah.
And then you find some more stuff, you know, in due diligence, and then you wait till the last day of due diligence and you try to retrade.
Right.
You're like, oh, I need another $15,000.
You just don't throw it all out there.
That's a lot of people are like, oh, that's sneaky, us being a snake. That's a good real estate investor.
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
doing it to make money.
Yeah.
Like why not?